to Daytime Talk After Dark. My name is Al Jackson, joining you guys solo once again. That's right. Let's just get some family business out of the way. A lot going on with the DBL crew, and it kind of ties into what I want to talk to you guys about as we start the show off, and that's about transitions. We are not going anywhere as a family. DBL, and as it exists now, Daytime Talk After Dark, is not going anywhere. You can't get rid of us if you tried, but we are currently kind of being pulled in different directions. I don't know if you guys saw the big news, but our girl Sam Shocker, the person who I love and also equally love to make fun of, has been tapped to take over for Tom Green as the lead on the 9 News 4 to 5 hour, which is a big deal. She's trying to play it down, but clearly they've had their eye on her. She is always professional. That's what I always found to be so, just what a cool character trait is. Sam can be as silly as anybody, but also be so professional, which I never was. I'm just one speed, and that's why I'm not taking over for Tom Green temporarily. But Sam is so. Night Owls, please do me a favor, go into her IG and just give her well wishes and congratulations, because it is a big deal. Tori, my girl, my sister from another mother, is currently in the DC area with her dad, who's recovering from knee surgery. And guess what? She can't get away from me because I'm going to be on tour in DC next week with Frank Caliendo, and I'm going to roll up to her crib. And after I'm arrested, I'm going to say, hey, I was just dropping by to see my girl. But I'll be in DC next week too, so I'll make sure to pass along your well wishes. With that said, obviously Jeff Schroeder is doing his own thing with, what is that, Together Mess?
Correct.
Together Mess with his wonderful wife. I'm making sure that I get this plug right. With his wonderful wife, Jordan. So please make sure to check them out. And our girl, Erica Cobb, could not be here because she lives the busiest life of anybody I've ever met. Erica, do you remember that movie that came out Michael, do you remember that movie that came out 20 years ago with, not Michael Douglas, with the guy that first played Batman? It was called, where he made duplicates of himself.
Yeah.
What's that actor? He was the first Batman, Jacob. Michael Keaton. That's what Erica needs. She needs 9 Ericas. Even if they're not exact copies of Erica, just doing, Erica has so much going on, but this is what she has going on. Tomorrow on her podcast, she has a guest named Hakeem Jeffries. Maybe you've heard of him. That's a pretty big pull.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be joining us later today, but we couldn't make our schedules work, so we'll give him to Erica.
He's the House Minority Speaker.
The House Minority Speaker.
I'm pretty sure House or Senate. One of those. He's way up there.
Oh, yes. Hakeem Jeffries is that dude. And Erica is going to be talking to him on Accidentally Informed. Obviously, Claudia Jordan will be joining Erica. Claudia is lovely, sharp as a tack, beautiful, just a good soul. So I can't wait to check that out. And you guys can check that out. It's going to be live on Wednesday, 5 p.m. Central, Accidentally Informed on YouTube. So check them out. So that's where we are. I don't want you guys to get worried that we're breaking up like, 80s black boy bands. We're not New Edition here, even though it would be nice to have a little Belle Biv DeVoe every once in a while. I'll say this period that I'm experiencing, that Daytime Talk is experiencing, is, I think, par for the course for what we all need to kind of settle in and get ready for. And that's a time of transition. I'm currently moving. So up until about an hour ago, I was covered in paint. I have been just kind of deconstructing my life out of the house that I lived in for 7.5 years. And I'm moving into my girlfriend's condo. It's transitions. It's uncomfortable. It's a crazy move, Michael Dean. But transitions are worth it because you get a chance to reinvent yourself. For as much as we all, and I remember this word from grad school and undergrad, we all enjoy homeostasis. That's what human beings like. It is your body at rest. So the reason you don't want to get off your couch and exercise is your body is like, we're good here. When we exercise, our heart starts to beat fast, and as your body, I don't really like that. So let's just sit. And what happens when you just sit? You get stiff, you get out of shape, and your mind kind of gets dull. You need to see different things to do different things, and that's what we're all doing. That's what I'm doing, and that's what I keep telling myself as I'm moving boxes in perpetuity. How much stuff do you need, Al? I was just like, I'm a minimalist. I don't have that much stuff. Guys, I got paintbrushes. I have random old monitors that don't work, hangers for pants I don't own. I digress. Let's get into this week's news.
Wait, real quick, shout out to Simi. Love the $50.
Simi, thank you so much. Yeah, I can't tell you how much the monetary donations do affect everything that goes on here. This is what we do. This studio that Nick has made from his own hands, like something in the Bible. I'm surprised he doesn't have a ship he's building down underneath this. This is incredible. But this is you guys, and thank you, Julia. And Julia, always thank you. She also supported my shoe line, Nico and Jolie. I hope you enjoy your pair of shoes. You can check out Nico and Jolie on Etsy if you also want to support. But I digress. I appreciate the monetary donations. Before I go any further, I saw, because I be reading, I read your chats before we come on, and I saw that Damiana is battling bronchitis. Damiana, get better, girl. Come on now. I know bronchitis is it's a rough one. My dad had it, but I read that you're actually actively treating it. My dad went with the old black man treatment, which is to just do nothing and just cough for 2.5 years. I don't know what it is about that generation of men, but they were just like, they thought that cough syrup was wasted on them. My dad was like, it's fine. Dad, it's not. So, Damiana, I'm hoping that you're going to handle this a little bit better than my father. So what do you guys say we get started with a little bit of depressing news? We got to talk about Diddy. I don't even know if it's depressing. I just think it's the news. And I think it's the world we live in. Cassie, obviously, who we saw being assaulted on video in that hotel by the aforementioned Diddy, took the stand today. Very pregnant, by the way, very pregnant. So I'm wondering what that's going to do for the optics. Because remember, for as much as we're reading this and seeing still pictures, we are animals. We are all biological creatures. And anybody on that jury that saw a very pregnant Cassie get up and have to recount what happened to her under the alleged years of abuse under Diddy, I'm sure would be swayed. But this is an interesting trial. And the reason I pitched this to Michael Deans for us to talk about first is I don't know if this is much of a slam dunk as we probably thought it would to start. And here's what I mean by that. We all saw Cassie being assaulted on video. But, of course, good old-fashioned statute of limitations, Diddy cannot be prosecuted for that.
Yeah, he also settled the lawsuit that she brought against him the day after she brought it.
I remember that's kind of what started this. He settled that lawsuit. That was a civil suit, obviously. So now we're really going to trial over basically the freak-offs and Cassie's position. And Michael Dean, correct me, I'm not going to say it's correct, absolutely, but basically that she was forced to participate in said freak-offs.
So she is a character witness because her story closely mirrors the actual other women who are part of this case, who whose abuse, alleged abuse, and whatever are the trial's based on. So she's like a character witness, about this pattern of abuse.
Right. Okay. So she is a character witness about this pattern of abuse. And again, you would think the recounting of these freak-offs would be enough to make this a one-day trial, but here's what I think is going to really be a huge barrier in terms of that happening. And it's that it's going to be hard to convince 12 adults that these parties that went on for years, they were all done under duress. And the reason I think that is because it is the defense team, Diddy's team, saying we have videos. Usually it's the prosecutor saying we have video, and it's the defense going, oh my God, they have video. When the defense has video and they're saying we want this tape played, it's because I'm assuming the defense is going to show a video in which all these people that say that they were being persecuted, that they were being held against their will, that they were being forced to participate in these sexual acts against their will, that videotape isn't going to show that. That's what I think is going to happen. And it's going to take is one person to say, that person doesn't look like they're being held hostage. That person that's drinking a bottle of champagne and engaging in a sexual act doesn't seem like they're being persecuted. So I'm really curious to see how this plays out, because you have to understand, as the years roll on, first of all, the prosecution's main witness no-showed last week, which is a major problem, was witness number 3. They really never got a true commitment that she was going to show up. So they're already missing witnesses, and who knows? Allegedly, maybe Puffy's team got to her and made it so that she didn't want to. Maybe she's moved on with her life and doesn't want to go back to that. There's so many things that would make people not want to recount something that happened 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I'm curious to see how you're going to be able to convince a jury of 12 adults that every single freak-off that occurred that you probably got on a plane to attend, you did that under duress.
And sex trafficking, I think, charge is really difficult.
Well, the sex trafficking is just a charge that I really still can't really, it seems rather opaque to me, Michael, because if there are websites that are legal, where, like, if I went to sugardaddies.com, right, and I was like, I want a 21-year-old college student to be my arm candy at this event I'm going to in Houston, and I fly her out, that's not illegal. Even if we engage in a sexual act and I have paid her through the website in public, I've paid her for that. That's legal. But so sex trafficking is when somebody, it seems a little blurry. And yes, Marcy, I am by myself again. But you know what? Marcy, I have so many voices in my head, I'm never by myself. And that's more of a cry for help. So just wrapping up this Diddy stuff, and when I say wrapping up, I mean for this chunk of it, I'm telling you guys now, Night Owls, this is not a slam dunk. And I'm really wondering what is going to happen in terms of the cultural backlash should Diddy get off. Because if he just has to pay some money, or this case is dismissed due to lack of evidence or lack of witnesses showing up, I'm wondering how you guys are going to react, because I don't think it's going to be good. This next story is really good for one person, and that person is your president. Yeah, come on, guys. Put your hands together. You should be happy because your president, President Trump, just got a $400 million gift from Qatar.
Whoop,
Yes.
whoop.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, shout out.
Where's mine?
I'm like, Qatar, you guys are clearly throwing these out. That's what Qatar should have done, is they should have given it to, like, Donald Trump, and then there's got to be another guy that's got a similar name, like Donald Trump or something, and just be like, we were just going through the phone book, just giving, his name happened to come up. But no, it was just our current sitting president getting a gift from Qatar. Now, Qatar is currently under the header of one of this country's allies, the United States, but they are also openly allies with our with countries we have issues with, like China, like Hamas. I know that's not a country, but they are supporters of Hamas, and this country says that it is not. And what I think is none of that matters when somebody's giving you a $400 million plane. What could I do to you after I gave you a $400 million plane that you wouldn't forgive me for? What could I ask you as a favor that you wouldn't grant to me because I gave you a $400 million plane? Go ahead, think on that. While you're thinking about that, actually the framers of the Constitution had some forethought into this, and they came up with something that was called the Emoluments Clause. That basically means that the president can't get $400 million planes, even though that kind of money couldn't be conceived back then, and planes hadn't been conceived yet. But even then, they were like, if any of those things become true, the president shouldn't have it. And Donald Trump's reaction is, what would you do if somebody gave you a $400 million plane? Say, I want to pay for it? No. He said I should just take it. Just taking the Constitution and just putting his foot through it. And this has even gotten his most ardent supporters, the people that are hard MAGA, even they are like, yo, son. I don't know if they said exactly that, but if there was a MAGA translator, which I'm sure there is on the Google phone, that's what it will come out to. Son, what is you doing? It's such an open bribe. I've always said that bribery exists for our politicians in a few forms. One is in the form of insider trading and stocks. You know, a lot of our senators had the forethought. Maybe they're just good at stocks. Maybe us night owls, we're just bad, so we didn't know. Some of them had the forethought that the day before the COVID lockdowns were announced, they dumped a bunch of stock. Maybe it was coincidence. Stop hating, y'all. And, you know, sometimes they take place in the form of, you know, what people will pay to have a congressperson or a senator come speak at their event. You know, if a senator wants to come and speak for 40 minutes, giving a rehearsed speech to a room of half-drunk employees of said company, and you wanted to pay them $450,000 for that, maybe it's just that good of a speech. I haven't heard of a $500,000 speech, but maybe there are some, and apparently our senators and congresspeople give them a lot. So there are ways to bribe, but at least it's like a little bit discreet. A $400 million plane that I heard had 9 bathrooms. I believe Lil Wayne had a line about a lot of bathrooms in his house and what he could do all day that I can't repeat here. But
do you think they all have gold-plated toilets?
Michael Dean, I'm going to ask you not to ask silly questions. You know, there is no way, sir, that every one of those toilets is not solid gold. And I don't know if you knew this, Michael Dean, they all have bidets,
yeah,
which I am kind of on board with because I've been talking to you guys since the DBL days about bidets, and apparently Trump is on board as well. So he's got 9 bathrooms and equipped with bidets, and it's something that after he is no longer president, assuming he stops being president at some point, right, guys? That plane will then be donated to the Trump Library, which he can then use, which I've heard of people donating money to presidential libraries, another possible way to bribe a politician, but I've never heard about doing it with a plane. So that brings us to the major question of the day. How does the library use a plane?
Oh. Isn't there Air Force One at the Kennedy Library?
Yeah, I guess. What do you need to fly direct? Do you say, hey, get my pilot, I need to fly to my library and look something up? I don't know when. And since you brought up Air Force One, Michael, thank you for that little reminder. Boeing is currently making an Air Force One that I guess Trump couldn't wait for. You know, sometimes when you need a plane, you need it now. Let's not be ridiculous. So that plane is scheduled to cost American taxpayers $4 billion, and that'll be ready next year. So maybe it's like a loan. What's that?
2027.
2027. So yeah, you can't have them waiting around. So this is like a loaner jet while your jet is in the shop. This is blatant corruption, and the optics are horrible. I mean, just imagine other countries looking at the President of the United States flying around in a jet that he got from another country and what influence that country must have on him. It's like a constant sticker on your car. You know, like when you buy a new car and around the license plate, it'll say like, you know, Michael Dean Ford. You know, that's where it's like wherever you go, it's an advertisement for that car dealership. Well, that's kind of what this is going to be. So as we burn through the rule of law in ways I never thought, this is a little side note. I don't even know if we said we were going to discuss this, but also Stephen Miller. Did you see this? Michael said that they were going to play around with the idea of getting rid of habeas corpus of due process.
Yeah. Tell everybody, what is habeas corpus?
Habeas corpus is just your rights as a citizen. When you have the right to remain silent. You have a right to an attorney. You have a right to a trial by jury of your peers. All these things that we've been seeing on Law and Order, we're going to have to delete those episodes from the archives because that's no longer here. Because I think what the Stephen Miller / Donald Trump administration was finding is that when you want to just grab brown people off the street and throw them out of the country, even though some of them are citizens, figuring that out, letting them defend themselves, it takes so long. It's like an infomercial. You know, washing your car takes so long. If only there was something better. How about, this is the ShamWow of getting rid of people that you don't want in your country. And the way that you do that is you just take their rights away and throw them out of the country, which is horrifying. It is brutal. It is unconstitutional, but it is efficient. It's terrifying that this has even been proposed. And what they're going to try and do is say, well, this has been enacted before during times of invasion. They then cited the last president to use this was Abraham Lincoln, so it was recent. And what he was saying is when you're being invaded as a country, you can suspend due process. By the way, a little foreshadowing here, I think this is going to be the same way that Trump just stays in power after his 4 years. As soon as that time's getting short, he'll just be like, yeah, we're under, wartime law because, some country, some brown country somewhere is threatening us. And so I'm going to stay in power until we get this settled. And that'll be another 30 years. So I digress. This is terrifying. And I'm just wondering how long it's going to be before people take to the streets. And I'm encouraging that, but honestly, guys, that scares me because I said this. It's the day that the January 6thers were released. I think they were released for one reason, and that reason is to serve as an unhinged, unrepressed militia that can now go after protesters, a la who was the kid that shot those two protesters? That goofy Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yes, good call.
We noticed that nothing happened to him. We saw that the Marine that strangled that young black man on the subway in New York City, he was shown at the Army-Navy game in the presidential suite. People that take up arms against other citizens that are not deputized to do so have not only not been prosecuted, they've been heralded and put on a pedestal. So now that you go get your de facto army out of jail, a lot of them have since committed murders and been shot at and killed themselves. They'll be released, and they won't have the same restraints put on them that the police will have. So I'm really scared that, especially since we're starting to hear talk of Derek Chauvin, the police officer who murdered George Floyd, there's a big push from MAGA to release him. What's that going to do? Oof. What's that going to cause people to do? Night owls. I think you guys know. Think on it while I take a sip of water.
That's scary.
It is scary. Michael Dean, it is scary, but I think that this has been the plan all along. And I think once you put down one resistance, once you okay the National Guard to shoot down a bunch of protesters and you deputize radical organizations, yes, to do what they've always wanted to do, which is, they've been out in the fields practicing barrel rolls and stabbing scarecrows, that they've been waiting for this, for the president to call and say, hey, we need you in downtown D.C., no rules. Yeah. It's a scary time, and it's the way that people seize power, and it's the way that they keep power. And the people around Trump are obviously unwilling and totally unable to control him. And this is someplace that we've never been, and it scares me.
But, we are going to have full store shelves for Christmas because he lowered the China tariff. So
that is a good Michael Dean finding the silver lining in this cloud of sadness, and that is Trump has negotiated, in his terms, lower tariff rates from the ridiculous tariffs that he imposed. And do you know why? Because everybody in Trump's circle, they probably shut the door of the White House. They told everybody, can you guys turn your phone off and make sure that there's no recording devices? And then in unison, almost like a Christmas carol, they said, are you effing crazy? Are you crazy? You can't just stop doing business with China, because that's not how the world works. Those ships that come into our docks, the dock workers that work on those docks, the truck drivers that drive said goods all over the country, the consumers in this country that then purchase those goods, those empty boxes that then go back to China and then get refilled and come back to this country. If those boxes are empty, it kind of affects everything and everybody. And for as much as people can sometimes get bogged down when they hear a word they don't know, like emoluments clause or something that Tory would know that none of us would, what we all understand is an empty store shelf.
Especially around Christmas.
Especially around Christmas, and especially when it is very expensive. Because if I do make American Al water here, and I realize that my competition is coming from other countries, and that competition is not showing up, I could be a nice guy and keep my prices the same, or I could say, oh, that $1 bottle of water, it's $4 now. Sup? Because what are you going to do? When you make it impossible for other countries to compete for your money by offering lower prices, by offering a better product, by offering more of that product, however you want to incentivize people, what you're really doing is you're going to cause price gouging from the companies that are left. And Americans said that they voted for this administration because they were hurting in the pocketbooks. And now, not only will they not be hurting, but they'll have less choices in which to be gouged. So I think Trump recognized this and recognized not only the bad optics that would be occurring just on a day-to-day basis, but like Michael Dean nailed it, at Christmas, Trump kind of tried to get in front of this by saying, hey, tell your daughter she doesn't need that many dolls, which is wow.
Yeah, you don't need $30.
Wow. He said you don't need $30, and you need 2. And then he goes, and those 2 might cost a little bit more. That's quite the slide in. Look, you're going to have no choices, and it's going to cost more. What's up? And Trump, who is ever a fan of polls and how he is seen by the American people, realized that this was a loser, and he's slowly backing off these self-imposed tariffs by saying that he's having discussions with China, but we really haven't heard China reiterate that. I just think Trump is trying to slowly walk back these tariffs because I think he thought that people would see them as him being a strong American leader, but people are like, we don't care about you being strong. We want stuff on the shelves that we can afford, like we've always had. So let's move on. Let's get a little bit of a palate cleanser here, and that is Selma Hayek. Do we have those pictures? Do we?
Nick?
We're
working on it.
Okay, well, before we get to Selma Hayek, let's talk about Halle Berry.
have that.
Yes, first of all, happy Mother's Day to all my night owl mothers. I was unfortunately away from my mom for Mother's Day. Shout out to Dr. Jackie McLemore. She's holding it down in South Carolina. She might have, I mentioned last week that my Aunt Wilhelmina passed away after 98 years, and I believe my mother was in Cleveland for the ceremony. So obviously, Aunt Mina, I'm sending my love to you. Happy Mother's Day to you up there swirling in the heavens, and happy Mother's Day to all of the night owls out there. And also happy Mother's Day to Halle Berry, Northeast Ohio's own Halle Berry. Shout out. Yes, Marquita Baker says she has a pic with her bae. They're in bed, and Halle Berry wanted to tell the whole world that on Mother's Day, she's going to be getting it in. Shout out. So let me ask you guys, night owls, because I didn't have an opinion. I'm not here to sex shame anybody, but did we need to know that? Did we need to? I feel like, Michael Dean, if you need to tell people that you're having sex, I feel like you're definitely not.
It is a little weird.
It's
like a weird flex.
Yes, because trust me, as somebody that's talking to many drunken couples after many comedy shows, they'll, like, you're selling T-shirts or just shaking hands at the end of the show, and usually the woman in the relationship would be like, and after your show, we're going to go home and have sex. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, it's just like there's certain people that feel like they need to announce it. And I feel like those people are the ones that are not having sex. But if Halle Berry is, great. I don't know. We're a sex positive show. If you're having sex, have at it. But do you guys want me to tell you every time I have sex? Because that'd be really weird. And I'm sure we'd see, Nick would pull me aside after a show and just be like, do you see this dip right here in viewership? What do you think you were talking about right there? Yes, Lisa says, who cares? I guess it is publicity, Lisa, but I always felt like publicity was meant to lead you to something. If Halle Berry said, hey, night owls and America in general, my libido was very low and now it's high thanks to this product, I could see that kind of like, I'm like you, my libido was low, but now I did like a way to shove you towards something, but just the announcement of it, do we want to hear about Al under the sheets? I don't know about that. And first of all, there needs to be two polls because I don't know how often I have sex under the sheets. What, am I having sex in the 1800s in rural Minnesota? Was it freezing outside? I don't need to be under the sheets. That's so crazy to me. But that used to be.
That's a really good point.
It's like under the sheets is very television, or maybe even like a 9 o'clock Friday night movie where you would assume they would have sex because either there would always be a candle flickering, so it's orange, and then the bedroom door would shut, or you see the silhouette, or you just see the sheets move. But like very rarely am I underneath the sheets. I don't know, it'd be chafing me. I don't know. I don't like that.
It's a lot of tangling going on.
It is. Like, unless you've had the sheets made like in a hotel, which I'm never under the sheets. Oh. There's a poll for you. Who gets under the sheets at a hotel? Like just to sleep? Nick, do you? No? What about you, Jacob? No? Michael Dean?
It depends on the hotel.
Okay, it depends. Okay, that's a good one. Yes, there is. There's every hotel that should be the way you should say if it's a nice hotel, because it's a very like, you won't seem classist if you say, oh, you're staying at the Knights Inn. Oh, it's an on top of the sheets hotel, but it's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
The Ritz-Carlton, under the sheets.
Under
Can you
the
imagine
sheets.
what those sheets feel like under there?
They try to sell those sheets. Like
They do.
It's advertisement for them.
Well, here's another weird thing I want to ask the Night Owls. If you could have one thing from a hotel at your house, what would it be? And here's what mine would be. I like the way a hotel room smells the first time you walk in. I know that that's some kind of room spray that they use, but I really like that smell because it just smells like freshness. Even though it's artificial and clearly a chemical, I like chemicals, okay? And I like that smell. So what would you take from the hotel? I'm assuming a nice hotel, there better be some robes on that pole, because a lot of y'all know if they didn't threaten us with that, about taking the robes. They don't threaten you outright. What they say at a hotel is like, do you like our robes? Cool. When you take it home, it's $125, and you're like, I get it, buddy. You know, you don't have to, don't kind of back end threaten me. Just tell me like what I can take and what I can't. All right, moving on. We got a little sidetracked with hotels. I would actually love to do a podcast series about hotels. I
agree.
I've stayed in them all, and they're all fascinating. Like even the ones that, of course, when you stay at a really nice one, like Four Seasons or the Ritz, I'm sure they treat you. Oh, Shelly says the pillows. Well, Shelly, like what I'm saying about these hotels, like of course the high-end ones, you're going to get everything. They're going to call you Mr. Dean, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Holmby, you know. But when my girlfriend and I, we were going to Mexico last year to visit her mom, and the roads were so bad. I didn't know the highway between Albuquerque and Denver gets shut down all the time in the wintertime because of snow, because you have to remember there's no mountains or anything out there to break the snow up. So when it snows, it just blows sideways. And I was driving, as I always am. I'm from Cleveland. I know how to drive in the snow. Night owls, I don't know if I've ever been this scared driving. I couldn't see. The snow was blowing sideways like a curtain. And my girl doesn't see horror on my face, so she's just talking like, yeah, my mom's gonna cook. And I'm like, we're not gonna make it. And it was so bad that the fire department shut down the highway. And I was like, we had to get off. And we turned around and we had to stay to Best Western. And so we called on the highway saying we're gonna reserve a room last minute. And the woman on the phone at the Best Western said, do me a favor and drive safe. I'm thinking about you guys. And Michael Dean, thank you for that face. That was a year and a half ago. It meant so much to me.
Yeah.
It was such a personal thing to say, and she meant it.
Yeah.
And it was like, as a consumer, I think that we know that like when we go to a high-end anything, we're going to get treated a certain way because we're spending a certain kind of money. But just when somebody just extends a little bit of humanity, I used to talk about this in my act years ago, but we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. I was at a, not an old country buffet, but what's the Cracker Barrel?
Cracker Barrel.
I think some of them have gone under, but I was at a Cracker Barrel. The ones with the rocking chair out front.
Yeah, on the porch.
Those, yes, on the porch. You got to walk through that little knick-knack store to get in there.
Yep.
I was in a Cracker Barrel by myself. I had just had a breakup with my first manager, which is really, so I was a little distraught. It's the first time it had ever happened to me in show business, and I'm in this Cracker Barrel just trying to go through this menu. A lot of fixins to get through. A lot of fixins I was trying to process, as well as like my manager leaving me. And the waiter came over and he was like, do you need a few more minutes? And I was like, I haven't even looked at the menu yet. Michael Dean, this dude put his hand, because he was standing next to me, I was in the circle booth. He put his hand on my shoulder and he goes, how about we get through this together? And he just went through the menu with me. That was like 13 years ago, and I remember it like it was yesterday. Like it was such a personal like touch. Like when somebody touches you, it's very disarming. And so shout out to whoever that waiter was at that Cracker Barrel, and shout out to the woman that made a black man feel all warm and fuzzy on a very cold New Mexico night. All right, what's up next, Michael Dean? What do we have?
And are we ready for some Salma Hayek, or do we want
to? Let's get to. I want to get to this question really quickly because we're not going to spend a ton of time on it. But thank you, Lauren F. It is adorable. And Shelly, it made me feel so good. I still clearly have so many feelings for that from that. So like, please, I can go on forever about that. But I do want to talk about something super scary. I'm glad that this person is now okay. But Tory Lanez, the person that was named as a defendant by Megan Thee Stallion in her kind of opaque shooting case.
Well, he got 10 years.
Yeah, he got 10 years. It wasn't opaque in terms of his sentence, but the details around it, it seemed like, and let me just say this now that the case is over, whether we're talking about Diddy freak-offs or Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion in the back of a limo, we have these conversations at 5 o'clock in the p.m. Like everybody's sober. Michael Dean don't drink, I don't drink. We're all just hanging out. But these cases we're talking about, you need to understand when you're reading them, everybody is up. Lit. Everyone. So everyone trying to recount and telling you, I know exactly what happened. All of these cases, there's a haze of champagne and Kettle One vodka and lots of substances and marijuana residue around all of these stories. So that's what makes it very difficult to unpack some of these. So yes, I will get to it. Tory Lanez got 10 years. He went to jail and he was stabbed, I believe, 12 times in jail.
I think it might have been even more than that. Let me look.
Okay, Michael Dean is looking up the exact number. 14 times. So, I think anything for me after 0 is too many. But 14...
I believe the correct term, not stabbed, because he's in prison, right? It's shank?
Shank.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Why is it prison? Why is it stabbed if it happens to you outside of prison? What makes it a shanking? Can you be shanked in public?
I think a makeshift knife, would you call it
yes.
a shank? I don't know.
I think that's, I have a buddy of mine who's a famous comic now. Me, my boy Ali Sadiq, and Bill Bellamy toured for years together early in my career. And Ali, who completely changed over his life, he served a significant amount of time in the pen. And I remember being at the Waffle House with me, him, Big E, and Bill Bellamy, and he would be telling us all the stories from him in jail. And this is why comedians have to exist. They were scary, so scary, but he made them hilarious. I mean, hilarious. And he talked to me about like the first time that you need, like when you need to go buy a knife. And he was like, there's just a dude that you just go, yes, Michael Dean. And he's like, just like any other business, Michael Dean, we have to understand, everything is a business.
Yeah, makes sense.
Do you have customers that need this product? Whether this product is baked beans or prison knives. Yes, people want to buy these. Well, are there options? Absolutely. And this, I'm not going to step on his joke, but it was just he was just like, the guy's like, okay, well, do you want to do it like between the cell bars or do you want to do it at lunch? Because you're going to get a longer one. It's just, yes, ELC Ali is, not only is he funny, he's a real comic because he's funny off stage. Yeah. Ali was telling, he is hilarious all the time. But like to make these, I remember he said something, I don't think he talks about it in his act, so again, but it shows the humanity. And I know that we like to put people in jail and throw them away, but he was saying like, because of good behavior, he was able to work on the floor with the people in solitary that are in solitary for 23 hours a day and only get out for an hour. Obviously, their behavior is not great because they've been kept like that. And what he said he would do and what kind of started him into stand-up is he would reenact episodes of Martin for them. Martin Lawrence, the TV show. He would just do it, and then Martin comes in and then she says, because you have to remember these people are denied access from the world. Yeah. So he said just one single sheet of newspaper from anything, financial, whatever, just to keep them connected, allowed him to get their behavior under control because he was like, if y'all are cool, I'll do this and I'll do that and I'll keep you guys connected. So it just shows you the importance of connection with human beings. I digress. What I wanted to get into really quickly before Al blabbed it up is what do we do with celebrities in jail? Because I know that you can't keep somebody in solitary because that's almost worse. But can you send an A or B list celebrity to Gen Pop? You know they're going to be extorted. You know they're going to be targeted. Is that when you say even don't you have rights as a prisoner as well?
Right.
So I would think I know that they section off convicted child molesters because they are attacked immediately and often in jail. So I wonder, like, what do you guys think? Should celebrities get any kind of, I hate to say special treatment, but that's what it would be because we've given them special treatment outside of prison. Do they then not need that?
Apparently he's recording, but I don't think it's true.
Okay, well, here's my pitch to you, Michael Dean. You're in the show business. You tell me how this show would fail. All the prisoners that are in jail, they stay in jail, but it's like a reality jailhouse.
I mean, I love the idea. Orange is the New Black.
Orange is the New Black with real people that you know.
I mean, I would watch that.
And people would get mad and they'd be like, oh, this is ridiculous. We're still making stars of them. Everybody would watch.
Yeah.
And look, people watch that show 60 days in, which I'm like, that show makes me uncomfortable, but I digress. Let's keep it moving. I don't know if we have the Selma Hayek pictures.
We do.
Oh, we do. Nick. Well, let's get to it. Selma Hayek at 50. 50?
I think she's even older than that. I mean, wiser than that.
She's older and wiser.
58.
50? No.
58?
No, she is not.
Yes.
Shut up. Are you serious? Selma Hayek's 58 years old?
Yep.
Oh, my God. Oh, okay. All right. Bye, Marquita Baker. Marquita's got to go. I'll tell you guys this. The fact that Selma Hayek is 58, there's a point in your life where, when you're so young, if one of my friends would have been like, would you hook up with a 58-year-old? I'd be like, never talk to me again.
Right.
And now, I'm sure that because as you get older, you notice older people being attractive. Now I look at Selma Hayek, I'd be like, yeah, of course. Now I'm with my lovely woman, Sar, so I'm not going anywhere. But I'm saying hypothetical Al would be like, what up, Selma? And she'd be like, get away from me. And then her security would mace me. But I wanted to ask you guys, do pictures of celebrities in their late 50s, early 60s in bikinis, does that do anything for you, or does that seem like it's more for them? Because they always have to frame it, Michael, and I'm sure you noticed this as we did a ton of stories like this on DBL. Yep. They always have to frame it like the haters are telling Selma Hayek that she's too old to wear a bikini. So these are the pictures. First of all, you know her PR did that. Nobody's saying, hey, Selma, cover up, you're gross. Nobody is saying that. But you kind of have to frame it like that in order for it to be more palatable. But I wanted to know, Night Owls, does this inspire you to say, hey, I'm going to, to aspire to be my best Selma? I'm trying to be my best Selma Hayek. If that's what 58 looks like, I say bring it on. And also,
I don't know, or is it like an unrealistic beauty standard now for older women?
Is it unrealistic? I would argue that all of the things that we see on television, I mean, The Rock, I don't know what's going on there, Michael, but it's not just chin-ups, dog.
No.
Have you ever seen The Rock look even slightly flabby? Like, you see people that were in the Olympics, like 5 years after that, they got a little dad gut on them. You know, I don't want to question The Rock, and I mean, he's never been indicted. Michael Dean is turning around this picture of Selma Hayek in the creepiest way I have ever seen. He did it. See, Michael Dean took his laptop and he just revealed it like a creep. But yes, she looks wonderful. But my question is, like, when you see The Rock, I don't think that's attainable. I look at Michael Dean and I know that's not attainable. And Michael Dean is ripped and I know that's never happening. But is it just like nice to look at? Let's be honest here. We all like a little eye candy, and whether it is, I think eye candy doesn't always necessarily have to be sexual. I think women definitely have this ability where they can look at an attractive woman and be like, oh, she looks hot, but they don't have the desire to pursue in any way. I'm sure I know for a fact men see other men, and they're like, I look at Michael B. Jordan, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I just look at his stomach. I'm like, your stomach can do that?
Yeah. Have you seen Sinners?
No, I need to go see Sinners. I've told you I've been in the process of moving. But if anybody ever wonders how tough it is to be black, Sinners, I'm assuming they kill the demons and they still are dealing with Jim Crow. Like, that is so 100%. Terrible. Yeah. Anyway, but I'm going to go. Sinners killed it at the box office.
It's so good.
So shout out. But yeah, Michael B. Jordan, there's The Rock, anybody. I'm like, yeah, he's Timothy Chalamet. I'm like, he's an attractive guy. Who cares? So shout out to Selma. And maybe, look, nothing that exists that we see on a daily basis exists for no reason. When people turn away, that's when things go away. And if people were not interested in seeing, hey, I'm fabulous at 60, check out my six-pack abs at 50, whatever it is, we would not see them. You guys care, so we keep seeing them. So, hey, shout out to Selma Hayek, and she has been fine for a long time. And I feel like we need to acknowledge that. Just a smoke show, as the kids say. Moving on to a topic I'm not sure that you guys are going to care about, but I want to get into the drama of it all, and I want to see if y'all care. All right, now, Night Owls. You may or may not be the biggest NBA fans out there. Fine. You don't have to be an expert, but I do want your opinion on this. Because famously, and I'm sure you guys know this, the Dallas Mavericks traded Luka Doncic, their superstar player, to the Los Angeles Lakers. The trade came out of nowhere. Everybody in Dallas lost their mind. Luka Doncic represented more than just a basketball player to the Dallas area. He embodied, they had rallied around him. They loved him. He was the first team that they played for. They'd seen him grow up from a kid coming from Europe and adapting and being a superstar on the NBA level. And he was traded almost like in the middle of the night. The word betrayal is the only one that really sums up how that fan base felt. Smash cut to the NBA lottery. It was the lottery to decide which team is going to get the number one pick. It was last night. This year is special because the number one pick is supposed to be this really good basketball player out of Duke named Cooper Flagg. Now, Dallas had a 1.8% chance of winning the lottery, and they do the lottery based on wins and losses that you've had. If you've had a lot of losses, you get more lottery balls. Like when they do the state lottery on TV, and there's that, I don't know if it happened in your city, where the ball would pop up, and the woman there would be like, all right, we got 16, and the ball would pop up, 28. I grew up in the 80s. That was a big deal to me, so no shade there. But the Dallas Mavericks, with their 1.8% chance, got that ball, and now they get to draft this superstar kid out of Duke. And I wanted to ask you guys, do you think there was some coercion there with the NBA? Because the NBA's got to be looking at Dallas and saying, this is a huge market that is pissed off to the highest level of being pissed off, to the point where some people were talking about giving their season tickets back, burning jerseys, not supporting the team. And you can't have that in Dallas, a huge market for the NBA, a huge American city. They have to love and support their basketball team because that'll eventually ultimately hurt the NBA's bottom line. And then all of a sudden, oh, Dallas, now you guys got something to cheer for. So I don't know. I talked to myself beforehand. I was like, if Dallas gets it, don't go down your conspiratorial mind rabbit hole. But I did it anyway. So do you guys think that they would risk rigging something like that? Michael Dean, what do you think? Because
I don't know, Dallas is the 5th largest NBA market.
Right.
I mean,
maybe the bigger question is, would you risk doing anything shady because everything comes to the light? Think about this.
Ooh.
Bill Clinton cheated with Monica Lewinsky, and they went and found the dress. He couldn't get away with that in the pre-internet era. Can you get away with anything now? Can you rob a bank now? How many cameras would you drive past? What could you do that's illegal anymore? So that's what makes me not think this is a conspiracy, is because I think the people that would want to do it, would be incentivized to do it, would be like, we can't do it. Because I don't know how to do anything illegal anymore.
I don't know. I mean, it is possible, 1.8, you do have a chance, but yeah, my vote is for rigged.
Okay, Michael Dean says rigged. I want to ask you Night Owls this, and I'll ask everybody here at DTAD Studios first. Have you guys ever won anything of merit? Have you guys ever won a contest or no radio, nothing?
I won a bike once, a really nice, expensive bike.
From what?
I entered in the shop. I put my name in the hat or whatever, and I got the bike.
And you won. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, Night Owls, I want to ask you guys, forget the NBA, Lisa. Have you guys ever won, not a major sweepstakes, but anything? I'm going to tell this story, and I feel like the Night Owls are going to judge me, because I judge myself with this story, but we're going to get into it. Homecoming, Al Jackson, 1994.
Get out.
I went with a girl that didn't go. Oh, ELC, you won the Bob and Tom trip to the Bahamas. That's what's up. That's crazy. That's dope. I'll tell you this story really quickly. 1994, I went to homecoming with a girl that did not go to my school. Her name was Fancy. Yeah, that was her real government name.
Oh, wait, Fancy.
Fancy.
It wasn't a fancy name.
No, her name was just Fancy.
Okay.
My Aunt Phyllis loved her name so much that she ended up naming one of her pets Fancy, because I will never forget, back in the day when being on a long distance call was expensive, I remember my Aunt Phyllis in Mississippi howling laughing that I went to homecoming with Fancy. But shout out to Fancy. We went to homecoming. 2 memories, Michael Dean. One, we went to the dinner and we went to Ponderosa, and she ordered this super expensive steak, which was probably $55, which to a high school student is the equivalent in 1994. That was the equivalent of her probably ordering a $310 steak.
Did you bring your checkbook, Al?
I did. We've talked about the fact I tried to pay for a date with a checkbook. No, I had cash this time, Michael Dean. Okay. And I didn't want to pay for the steak, but also she took one bite of it and she just goes, I don't like this. And I was like, oh my.
Did you eat it?
No, I had already had my food, and I think we took it to go, but it was a waste. And I went to that homecoming, and I won back in the day. This is going to show how old I am. I won the TV VCR combo. Yes, ooh, at after prom. That was a big deal. I won that. And so when I took her home, she lived in what we would now call a very underserved neighborhood. I had my dad's Toyota 4Runner that I borrowed for homecoming, and I was so scared. I didn't get out of the truck.
Oh.
And she was like, can you walk me to the door? And I was like, nah.
Let me ask you, would you have walked her to the door had she not ordered the steak?
Probably not.
Yo.
I don't think it hinged on it. Y'all, look, we can judge 30 years later, but if I got out of this with my suit, the sleeves went past my wrists, my dad's truck sitting there, it would have not been good. And she made it fine, but I've always been so embarrassed, and I just feel like I had to get that out. So shout out Fancy, you owe me a steak. Gabriel, I appreciate you letting me get that out.
How far was the door from the car?
How far was the door from the car? I mean,
could you watch her walk in?
I could watch her. I could have watched her walk in. I'm telling you guys, you know how in movies when they try and show an underserved neighborhood and there's literally unhoused people warming their hands in front of a trash can that's got fire coming out of it? It was like that. I swear. Ooh. I'm Michael Dean. I've lived in black neighborhoods my whole life. Bro, I was like, if I get out of this car. So I'm sure there were people around if he gets out that car. So I regret it, but I understand why I did it. She did make it safely. And, that's neither here. I don't know how we got into that, but maybe I just need to bare my soul and let you guys know. Shelly said that she won 2 bottles of wine at a raffle. I will say this, Shelly, there are people that weirdly win a lot of stuff. My podcast partner on my other podcast, My Safe Word Is More, she's won a lot of stuff. Some people have these weird Jeff, my co-host here, he won 2 tickets on Ellen to go to Australia.
Yeah, that's right.
He just had, some people have this weird luck, and Jeff is just yeah, that's weird. But to me, that would have been the trip of a lifetime. But I think when it happens to you a lot, you get pulled out of line a lot to do stuff.
If you're in the audience in Ellen, there is a producer there who's they're a cute couple.
Yes.
They're our winner.
Michael Dean is saying that there's a producer.
A TV producer.
Yes.
Sorry.
And I will back your point up because I'll tell you this. I went to The Price is Right. I was in the audience. And the reason that I went was one of my homeboys, who's a funny comic, doing very well. He was just on Conan. My boy Orlando, the nicest guy you've ever met in your life. He's from the DR, from the Dominican Republic, and we went to The Price is Right because he taught himself how to speak English by watching American TV and by watching The Price is Right. So going to the actual taping and wanting to get on was almost like him going to his holy land. I don't want to say anything else. I don't want to offend anybody. So I don't want to go to The Price is Right. I'm I don't want to sit there with all those randos. We get to The Price is Right, and we were kind of in the middle. There was a bubbly, attractive blonde in front of us from Canada, and she was just chatting us up, talking to people around her, and I was like, they gonna pick her.
Yep.
She was the first person that went up for the showcase, because producers come and they go, oh, Michael Dean, where are you from? And then you'll say something funny or interesting, and they'll just write something down. I'm like, okay, cool. And so we're at The Price is Right. And for as much as I didn't want to be there, it speaks to the human spirit, because when we were together in unison as a group, Grumpy Al, that was like, well, I'm a comic, I don't want to be around show business. If I'm not in front of the camera, what am I doing? 10 minutes, y'all. after this show starts where I'm just like looking at my watch, like, when is lunch? Oh, we must sit 10 minutes in. I'm like, 550, you yelling. It is the best experience. People will get a showcase and you'll just hug the person next to you. It's this weird thing where like you shouldn't care.
Right.
But there's something about human beings, and that's why, like I always say, live sporting events, live music events, if you're able to and you can put the money together, go, because they're the one thing that kind of reminds us that when we're together, we're something bigger.
Or a comedy show. There's nothing like laughing with a group of people together. I'm telling you, all the good, like oxytocin,
Yes.
serotonin, all of that stuff comes out.
People after comedy shows, and all right, I'll just wrap up, but I'll just say people after comedy shows have said some of the I was at there's a comedy club called Comedy on the State in Madison, Wisconsin, and I got off stage. This is years ago. I'll never forget it, Michael Dean. This mother and daughter came up to me, and they were like, great show. And I was like, oh, thank you. And the mom went into where people go to leave, and the daughter hung around, and she goes, this is the first time I saw my mom laugh since our dad died.
Wow.
It's not like, oh, I'm so great. It's just like, that's the importance of comedy.
Right.
Is when left to our own devices, we can stew. You find ourselves getting mad, you get bitter. Why did my dad have to go? Yeah. But like when you're around other people, you remind that we're something bigger. You can laugh and move forward and laugh at your tragedy. Laugh. The best comics, Josh Blue talks about his cerebral palsy, how it doesn't get him down. Overweight comics talk about, their experience and they make it funny. And everybody that's had a tough road in this world, for as much as we need to have advocates, for as much as you need to make sure that you are heard and spoken for, sometimes a comic will just take the air out a little bit and just laugh, because if you can't laugh at yourself, what are you doing? If you want to laugh at me, come check me out on tour. I'm with my boy Frank Caliendo. We are at the Toledo Funny Bone on the 15th. We're going to be at the Pittsburgh Funny Bone and some improv. We are also, I'm just making this up, we're going to definitely be in D.C. We are going to be in Philadelphia. And we're going to be in another city I can't think of. So check out, it'll be on my Instagram, Al Jackson IG. Come check out myself, Frank Caliendo. Please also check out Nico and Jolie on Etsy, NicoandJolie, for all things shoe wear. And do me a favor and follow Dude IDK Studios. Give them a holler, give them a shout out. And make sure to support everything that they got going on here. And with that said, Night Owls.
Hoot hoot.
I don't know what we do without y'all. See you next week. Hoot hoot.